here we are. So to start off, it's hard to talk about the overview of the market. This last week, the US markets are relatively happy. Ireland is extremely happy. And Swiss is the only one red. Gold and silver specifically, had a rather entertaining week. We'll get to that in a second. Oil and gas are on their way up. As inflation is on the rise and the economy is slowly going to catch back up to speed. So, probably the cause there. I wanted to bring up the Dow. This is the Dow Jones on a year. It is now at levels above pre-COVID, pre-lockdown. It's worth mentioning. The economy has obviously been blown to hell, but they're not even thinking about raising interest rates, and they're printing 100 billion a month, give or take, and all that freshly new printed currency goes into the markets because it can't generate a return anywhere else. And it's all going until this last year. It all went to the rich, so it didn't affect consumer prices that much. Inflation in financial and real estate assets. That's the primary cause. This is a weak graph of silver. As you can see, a few days ago it hit an 8-year high, hitting $30 for a brief moment. This was, the hype started in Reddit, and there's a lot of counter information. A lot of Redditors who want to pump GameStop and nothing else. We're trying to deny that it didn't start from Reddit, but Reddit definitely started it. And they're trying to raise mass awareness about the Fed, about money printing, and about inflation, and about how the currencies that we work with in our day-to-day lives are monopoly money. Their value comes from supply and demand. Nothing intrinsic behind it. There's no gold backing it like historically there would have been. And so this is also the cause of the huge wealth gap between the rich and the poor from 1971 till now. Is this, as the currency loses value, assets are inflated. Now, that inflation, for the most part, had escaped gold and silver, as you can see. If we show, let's see here. They like to refer to gold and silver. Now, this last year it went up, so they're losing their argument some, but they suppress gold and silver to make it seem like there's no inflation. That's the point there. Now, this last week, it had a huge run up from all this mass awareness. And, you know, there was some huge shorts. Now, this correction is normal and expected when you have a huge run up like this, especially in a volatile asset such as silver. But it pretty much wiped out all the gains. Now, that was a little unusual. I suspect there was some shenanigans going on by the big financial institutions, shorting it. That may have been one of the reasons some of these entities, such as JP Morgan, Bank of America have such large stockpiles of silver. It might be just to drop it on the market to suppress the price in moments such as this that happened in this week, but we'll see. I also wanted to report on Parlor CEO has just been fired. Um, Parlor is the social media network that has come into the spotlight in the last month because of the recent Twitter bans of conservative, right-wing, whatever you want to call them, voices. Um, some people condemn it as an assault on freedom of speech, me included. So a lot of people have been trying to boycott Twitter and all the mainstream social medias. A lot of them flocked initially to Parlor. However, if you're going to lead a revolution or piss off the powers that be, you don't use Amazon Web Services to host your platform. FYI. So, because they were using Amazon to host their whole operation, as soon as they decided to be a little bit of a rebel, they got shut down. So, the Parlor revolution lasted a week. I guess they're trying to flock to Gab now. The government has come to our, rescue with a $1.9 trillion relief bill. Economic support package. Now, how much of that 1.9 trillion will make it into the hands of us, the average person? 10, 20%, they'll probably send a few billion to that country, a few billion to this country, stuff a few billion into that group, stuff a few billion into this other group. Say they're like using 100 billion to fight racism or some bullshit. And then, they'll leave us with some crumbs as the wealth gap continues to grow. It's going to be a one-party state with the Democrats controlling all three branches. Well, they control the judges. Who are we kidding? So there's a coup going on in Myanmar. It's a country in Southeast Asia. Facebook's announced that it, part of its services are unavailable now. I thought this was kind of funny, so this is a video of a woman doing a live aerobics class in Myanmar this morning, apparently unaware of an ongoing coup behind her. So countries being taken over by the military. American Airlines is firing people because they've made flying a living hell and you need a vaccine. Airlines are dead. They've been using bullshit PPP loans and other handouts and other shenanigans to keep people supposedly around. I mean, they're too much of pussies to even call it firing anymore. What's this furloughed word mean? Like, this didn't exist 20 years ago. This is some just feel-good bullshit. They were fired. So many businesses have been annihilated needlessly because diseases come and go. You don't shut down economies, which is how people put food on the table. Apparently Apple has signed a deal with Hyundai to make electric vehicles. Apparently they'll be made in West Point, Georgia. America's actually going to make something. Of course, they'll probably make all the parts in other countries and then just ship them here to assemble it or something. But we'll see what an Apple car looks like. Probably look like a Leaf or something, like a Nissan Leaf. So, we got some central banker coming out saying inflation is too low like they do. Of course, inflation is not too low, and the mass lie that they propagate is that there's no inflation. Now, if you look at real estate, if you look at the stock market, if you look at education, medical, anything important that you need to actually get somewhere, all those things cost more money. So they have an agenda to say inflation is lower than it is. They have this 2% goal. Now what's funny to me is that even if this was true, even if their goal was 2% inflation, and that's what it was, that's still bad. They're stealing 2% of our wealth a year. Think about what that is over a lifetime. So, when you understate inflation, it lets you print more money, which props assets up, screws the poor, their wages purchase less and less. The wealth gap grows while you can keep saying you're helping the small guy. And things get worse, right? So then it justifies helping the small guy more. So then the wealth gap grows even more. Now they're more hurt. So then it justifies it even more. And so they keep doubling down on their solution, which is creating the problem. The United States became a world power in the 19th century because we were on a gold standard where we had zero inflation for 70 years, ignoring the Civil War. So just be aware that they want you to believe inflation's lower than it is, so that you don't mind not getting a raise to keep up with inflation, and you keep your savings, you keep your money in cash and bonds, even though they're guaranteed to lose value. So don't own much cash or bonds. Bonds for sure, no. Cash, that's your dry powder to take advantage of potential investments when assets fall. But other than that, don't hold much.